Welcome to the Darkstream, VoxDay, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. It's been a while, so welcome back. Welcome back to me. Had a good, I guess you'd call it a working vacation in Spain. Went extremely well. So well, in fact, that we're going to be making some announcements pretty soon with regards to the Castalia History and Castalia Library lines. Making good progress on getting unauthorized relaunched, making good progress on improving the quality of the books, good progress on getting some comics out. The Rogue Roman says, I like the outfit. Yeah, I decided that it's time for me to settle on my old man style. You know, I think once you're in your mid-50s, you got to make a decision. And I just saw a few too many older guys that were, you know, trying to dress, let's just say, a little bit too young, you know. I like to think that I'm still in good enough shape to be able to wear a black t-shirt and black jeans and that kind of stuff. But, you know, even if you're in good shape, when you're older, it just starts to look like you're thinking about cruising the gay clubs, you know. So anyhow, I decided it's time to start sorting out my old man style, and we came up with some, you know, went to a few different places and ended up deciding on my old favorite banded collar look. Obviously, I need to find them in black, but you know, it's basically summer there, so what do, you know? I actually bought a white shirt. Don't get me wrong, I did get a black one as well, but anyhow, we'll see how it goes, you know. Sometimes you just gotta age, you know, what one hopes is with some modicum of grace. You know, I'm still going out fighting, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm still playing football, or soccer, as it were. And speaking of football, yeah, it did not go well for Dorking this last week. They're definitely going down. So, but that's okay. You know, sometimes you got to regroup. You can't, you know, 12 promotions in a row, you know, one relegation. That's a good percentage mix. Let's aim for 12 more. Robes for the Dark Lord. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm definitely pro lounging around in robes. You know, Space Bunny sometimes jokes that you know, I'm like this close to going full Howard Hughes, but Spanish Cowhide incoming. Well, it's funny that you should say that. I showed you guys this before we left. This is a sample stamp with one of the Spanish Cowhides. This is actually the cheapest real cowhide. You can't really tell, but it's got a very strong it's got a very strong grain to it. It's got that embossed grain. It's good. It's very good. You know, smells good, but we decided that was ultimately not for us. This is a more expensive, more refined one. It didn't stamp well on the cover, but the spine stamped fine. So this we considered strongly, and in fact, we thought this was the leading contender when we first started looking hard at it. But ultimately, we actually decided that we were going to go with the top line. This is the really good stuff. It stamps beautifully. You can't really see the detail, but I mean the detail of the pattern on the meditations is just flawless, and so it debosses beautifully. It's the best. It's the best cowhide we've seen, and now it does cost more, but we have decided to make it available to everybody. It's probably going to, we worked it out, it looks like it'll be a $75 surcharge per year. So it's basically a $75 annual subscription upgrade, and that means that all 6 books will be, you'll have the option of having them done in the Spanish cowhide. Doesn't matter, it's no pressure. We're not pricing it to try to make it profitable or anything. We're just covering the costs of the more expensive material. We are going to use it for the Castalia history books going forward. Not on the next one, because we already ordered the Italian cowhides for that. But after that, we believe that we'll be going with those. We'll probably also use it for the Iliad and the Odyssey. And basically that's going to be our goal, is to have that be our primary baseline. We're not going to do it for the plain vanilla library just because we want to keep our pricing where it is. I think it's in these economic times, it's important to respect those prices, and honestly the books are excellent. Just because we can do them better doesn't mean that they're not already great. So anyhow, but before we get on to some of the topics that I'm sure you guys want to get into, I do have a couple things to show you that I believe will be of some considerable interest to a few of you. So this is the Hero Omnibus, Volume 1. It was quite successful. I think it turned out really well. Quite happy with the level of detail and everything. But the one thing that I think was a little bit unfortunate about it was that we went with the 10x7. And we've been working on improving our game, as you know. And so this just arrived today. And as you can see, it is closer to the bande dessinée of the French. So it's actually nearly 11 inches high, and it's 8¼ inches wide, I believe. So anyhow, this is the full Alt Hero Volume 1, Alt Hero Q Volume 1, and it's going to be going out to the backers just as soon as I get the chance to go over it and make sure that everything printed correctly. I literally just got it in today, and so as soon as I can sign off on this, we will order it for the backers and allow people to start buying it either directly from Archaven or eventually from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc., etc. In like manner, we also have this. Same size, Midnight's War Volume 1, and welcome to the midnight world. We worked in some of the storyline introduction stuff that you saw on ArcTunes, and it's got all 6 issues. This is the beginning of Even the Dead Can Die. Here we've got the Cryptars celebrating Mass, and the whole works. So this is we're committed to we're committed to getting these things out, keeping them coming, etc., etc. We've had some challenges with ArcTunes with the devs getting caught up in some other things that they needed to do. We brought some new devs on, and so we're hoping to keep that moving forward and make some good progress in the fall. But in the meantime, we're going to get those out, and there's going to be a big comics-related announcement for Archaven tomorrow. So if you are an Archaven supporter, you might want to pay a little bit of attention to what Razorfist is announcing tomorrow. So as you can see, it was a very busy working vacation. I also read a book that I highly, highly recommend, and we're going to see about getting for Castalia Library. I'm so interested in this that one of the things that we're seriously contemplating doing is launching a new Castalia Science subscription at some point. I don't think we're ready to do that yet. We want to have the bindery in full operation, and we want to have the new website and store in full operation before we launch anything new. But a number of people have been talking to us, authors and publishers have been talking to us about expanding our lines, and I think that Castalia history has been twice as successful as we expected. We're conscious. We're not going to ask anybody who's subscribing to our existing stuff to subscribe to the new things. Everybody's got their limits, and we're well aware of that. We also don't want to do anything until we get caught up on our production schedule. But I'm just keeping you informed as to what sort of things you can anticipate as we get the bindery fully operational. And as you can see, we're very close. We're actually binding and stamping and putting books together right now. So I appreciate everybody's patience, and but if we've learned one thing, it's that taking the time to do it right is worth it. When you look at the Cambridge Medieval Histories, when you look at the landmark Thucydides, you can see that it's worth it. And we're only going to get better from there. For example, the Cambridge Histories of Japan will definitely be done in the new Cowhide, the new Spanish Cowhide, unless we decide to do them in Goat, which is possible. We've got time. We'll wait and see. So let's talk world news, world events. Obviously, the big news this last week was the Iranian response to the Israeli bombing of the Iranian consulate in, I believe it was Lebanon. And it's been really fascinating to see how Iran, presumably under the advisement of China and Russia, really finessed the situation very carefully and launched an attack that demonstrated their capabilities, but refrained from actually doing anything that was going to require escalation on the part of Israel. Israel's obviously making all the usual noises about how they're going to respond, but the fact that they are actually thinking about it and measuring it, then that's a good sign. Anthony has a point. He says, if those are the premium matte color interiors from Ingram, they look fantastic. That's exactly what they are. This is exactly what you see, what you get. Let me see if I can find a brighter one. Actually, let's go to the, there we go. So, the print quality of the regular paper is, phenomenal. It's much better than some of the traditional comics were back in the day. Anyhow, I've written about this. Simplicius has written a lot about it. But it's pretty clear that the U.S. military has been checked. We saw France running away in the Red Sea. A U.S. Navy captain came right out and said that there's no way that the U.S. Navy can defeat the Yemenis because ships do not fight well against land enemies. It was always very dangerous for ships to try to take an oceanfront castle, and it's even worse when there's no castle, when there's no targets, when the missiles can be fired from anywhere. And so what we've seen is Clown World has been checked in Ukraine. It's been checked in the Red Sea. It appears to have been checked in the Middle East with regards to Israel, Iran, and to a lesser extent Gaza. We don't really know what the situation with regards to Gaza and Palestine and how that's going to work out. If all you manage to do is kill a bunch of civilians, but you don't really affect the fighters, whatever positive effects you have from your actions are not going to last. So, and we haven't even seen anything happen on the Asian front yet. But China is easily the biggest X factor involved. There's next week we're going to be doing the analysis of the simulation of the Chinese invasion of Taiwan, and the more information that I've dug up, the more information that I've learned, the more it's become very, very clear that there's really not much chance of seriously resisting China in Asia. I believe it'd be more difficult to resist China in Asia than it has been for Ukraine and Europe to resist Russia in Ukraine. Obviously the U.S. Navy is attempting to work out an arrangement with Japan and Korea to have them manufacture U.S. ships, because the U.S. doesn't have the manufacturing capacity. But that's not going to work. And in fact, I strongly suspect, after reading The Princes of the Yen, I strongly suspect that the Japanese are going to switch sides. There was no mass consensus. What happened to bring Japan in line to U.S. demands was essentially accomplished by 2 people. And there are probably, to a lesser extent, another 8 to 10 involved. So once the Japanese fully understand how tenuous their ties to the West and to clown world are, and the price that they would pay if they, if Japan plays, falls in line with the U.S. demands, Japan becomes Ukraine in the Asian context. It's not Taiwan. Taiwan is like the Crimea. There's not a damn thing anybody can do to prevent Russia from taking Crimea. There's not a damn thing anyone can do to prevent China from taking Taiwan Island. I don't think that there will be much more violence with regards to Taiwan than there was with Crimea. At the end of the day, it's one country. So the question is, who wants to play the role of Clown World's proxy army? The 2 candidates, there's actually 3 candidates. I think one has already said not only no, but hell no, and that's Vietnam. The Philippines are actually willing to do it, but the Philippines are not really strong enough. So that means it's Japan. But Japan has, although they have a strong fear of China, I don't think they want to give the Chinese an actual casus belli to take revenge for World War II. And honestly, I don't think that the Chinese leader, she is very, very smart. Wang Hunin is very, very smart. There's no way that they are that concerned about rectifying historic ills. They're much more concerned about taking revenge for the century of humiliation on the West than they are for the misdeeds of the Imperial Japanese Army in Manchuria and in places like Nanking and so forth. So that's the big X factor. But there's a theme here that we're seeing, and that is that the technological changes that even Hollywood has noted. This is what's remarkable, is that when even Tom Cruise and Ed Harris and the Hollywood scriptwriters and Jerry Bruckheimer or whoever does the directing and production and so forth, they all understand that the age of the jet fighter is over. That's part of the plot of Top Gun Maverick. Ed Harris says, at most, you bought these guys a few months by proving that you could fly a jet at Mach 9, at Mach 10. And even then, the plane broke apart and crashed. So, flying that Star Wars Death Star mission literally bent the airframes and rendered them unusable. So, drones and hypersonic missiles is where it's at now. And it was really interesting to read an article in the Jerusalem Post by what I can only presume is the Israeli form of a boomer, because he was writing about how what Israel should do is do what they did to Iraq in 1981 and bomb Iran's nuclear reactors. Well, here's the problem with that. Back in 1981, nobody was expecting Israel to be able to fly the 1,200 miles or whatever it was and successfully bomb it. It was an impressive operation. Well, just this week, we've seen that Iran demonstrated the capability of sending more than 300 drones and missiles that same 1,200 kilometers and hit their targets. And there's nothing Israel could do to stop it. And so, so you're gonna try to send, the original the Iraq attack is called Operation Opera, I think. Operation Opera involved 14 planes. Well, Iran already has S-300s, the same S-300s that prevented Russia from using its air superiority. It's believed that Iran already has S-400s, and it's possible that they have S-500s either already installed or on the way. Those are the premier anti-air systems, air defense systems in the world. If Israel were to send 14 F-35s, they would probably just lose 14 F-35s, quite possibly before they even entered Iranian airspace. So the world has changed. War has changed. But we're beginning to see how it was that the generals didn't understand the significance of first the rear-loading repeaters in the Civil War, and they didn't understand the significance of the machine guns in World War I, and just wasted tens of thousands of men's lives trying to use tactics that were outdated. Now, I don't think that the IDF generals are that stupid. I don't even think that the US generals and admirals are that clueless. I think that they're looking at this. Part of why both sides are showing restraint is because both sides understand that they're both vulnerable to each other in certain ways, and that they can't, and that they're invulnerable in others. I shouldn't say invulnerable, but the only way to win an air war is to go through the attrition process. You have to go through the process of getting the other side to expend all of its anti-air missiles. Rainline says, it's wild being able to read tactical military history in real time in 2024. It's amazing. It's really astonishing. And it's where you can see how some of the great military minds of the recent past don't necessarily have the ability to adjust their thinking very quickly. If you read even great strategists like William S. Lind or Martin Van Creveld, and read their opinions in the early stages of the NATO-Russian war, they were just completely off base because they hadn't made the connection yet between some of these new technologies and how the tactics were going to influence what was possible and what would happen. One of the reasons that I believe I was able to see things a little bit more clearly is because what happened in the very brief Nagorno-Karabakh war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and the way that drones were used to really hammer the troops on the front lines, made it very clear to me that this was a whole new kettle of fish. And so it's going to be intriguing to see how that plays out over time. But the one thing that's very clear already is that attrition warfare is even more important than it was in World War II. And in World War II, it was decisive. Whoever could make the most stuff wins. And now, you know, the positions have been reversed, and, you know, whereas it was the Allies who vastly outproduced the Axis, now it's the nationalists who massively outproduce Clown World. You know, I mean, the Clown World militaries are much, much less effective relative to their opponents than they used to be 30 years ago, 50 years ago. You know, it was kind of funny. Some of the statements made by the French captain were, you know, they weren't prepared for the violence. They weren't prepared for the violence of the tactics and the way that they just kept shooting at them. You know, Jordan said, the U.S. is allegedly asking Iran to allow Israel a small face-saving strike. You know, I mean, personally, I think the U.S. is being a little disingenuous. It's been part of the U.S. plan to get reluctantly dragged into war with Iran since 2009. I actually downloaded the document that walks through it earlier today. So I think that the way that the U.S. is right now playing the role of being reluctant and trying to hold Israel back, I'm not sure how genuine that is. Now, it is possible that it's genuine just because Biden doesn't want to, or really, whoever's pulling Biden's strings does not want to make stealing the election again from Trump look too obvious. So, anyhow, well, I'm a bit tired, as you can tell, so I'm going to bring this one to a close because I've got some stuff I still need to do tonight before I turn in. But thanks for tuning in. And we're going to do at least 3 streams this week, and we've got a lot to talk about. So have a good evening. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.